Scouting report. How many games have you watched of Iowa, and what do you see?
I was, you got to remember their team was ranked in the top 25 a lot more than we were all year. A lot more. So they had some big wins early. I think it was UConn and Syracuse, maybe. Is that right? They dominated some teams. They can really, really play offense. They got guys who can score inside and out. They went through some tough times last year and came out on the other side, had a great season this year. So anybody that can score in multiple ways gives a coach a lot to think about. So they give you a lot to think about because they got two low post scorers. They got great shooting on the perimeter, and they pass the ball extremely well. So whenever you pass the ball well and you have talent, you're going to have a good offensive team. You're going to have one. So they pass the ball extremely well. So it wouldn't matter if they shoot the ball well, but it wouldn't matter if they didn't pass the ball well. And they pass the ball well because Fran's a great coach. So they obviously they pose a lot of challenges. They change their defenses a lot. So fortunately, we're not playing them in a one-day prep because they are a team that does tend to change defenses. And I think, Fran's a friend. I've rooted for him back when he was at Siena. So he's always been a guy that he'll press, play man, play zone. He does a lot of different things defensively.
Have you coached against him before?
No, never. I've recruited against him, but I'm 0 for 2. He got Connor and Patrick, both his sons.
They also, I think they lead the Big Ten in free throws attempted.
Yes, they do. They've made more on the season than their opponents have even attempted. So that's a mark of a really good offensive team.
Do they remind you of anyone you faced, or are they totally distinct?
Yeah, that's the beauty. It's one thing I like about not being in the media. I don't even remember yesterday at this point. You guys, who they remind me of, Bellarmine. You understand now, I think Bellarmine's the best coached offensive team in college basketball. Nobody passes and shoots the ball as well as the Bellarmine Knights, who I will be rooting for tonight to go to the Final 8 is Division II. So they pass the ball and shoot the ball in space like Bellarmine, I would say. And now I hope you understand, for me, that's the ultimate compliment because I think Scott Davenport, that there's no better coach in college basketball than Scott Davenport.
You mentioned putting the championship to bed on Sunday, so what was the message yesterday?
Rest and realize that you got to realize why you win. I think, what seeps in sometimes from the outside is no different than what pulls your home apart off of a foundation. And you start to win because you start to read your press clippings, social media nowadays, or obviously the guys on my team that do have a girlfriend, she's telling them that they're winning, our win is because they're a great player. All these things seep in. And your job as a coach is to make sure your team stays focused on why we won, who we are, and we have to be true to that. And you have to make sure that our guys stay focused on that. And it's a challenge of every coach.
Been a lot of talk about development and guys playing more this season. So to see Trey make all-tournament team and Nas have some of the games that he did in the tournament, that must be rewarding.
Yeah, well, I would appreciate, first of all, I appreciate it if you actually acknowledge that players develop here. I appreciate that. And I mean that. I really appreciate that. So, Jaron's got a lot better as well. So I've said this last night a lot with Dan on the radio. More important than where you play, more important than seeding. You got to have some guys can score, man. Can't draw that ball in the basket. Trey Scott had a great tournament. Justin had moments. Kane had moments. Obviously, Jaron had a big moment against Houston. A great game against Houston. So getting hot and making shots is a requirement because in the tournament play, you're playing good teams, and it's not baseball. Can't win 1-0. You know, can't win 1-0. So you're going to have to score some points. So it's really important that guys have some moments, and you know, you hang in there through tough times, but at some point the ball's going to have to go in. I mean, it's just going to have to. So you know, you look at what Houston's win over Memphis, to me, was amazing. To score 1 point in the last 7 minutes or 8 minutes of a game and win a game, it's mind-boggling, and a testament to how hard they play on defense and how good they are on defense and how great of a coach Kelvin Sampson is. That's not going to happen. You know, we tried that against Nevada; it didn't work. You know, so that's the most important thing. You know, so I think another fallacy. We spend 80% of our time on player development, shooting, offense, because our kids, they come in, they play, one guy has today's kid comes to college, and 90% of them, they don't know how to set a screen properly or read how the screen's being played. The guy doesn't know how to use it. There's no offense is not taught off the ball. Because they play AAU on national teams. You can't practice if you play for a team based out of Cleveland. How much practice time do you have? So what I'm telling you is they watch one guy dribble and the other 4 stand. That's how they play pickup. That's the extent of summer ball and all-star games. So that's where we have to teach the most, how to play without the ball. And this team has won this year because we've executed 2-man games, we've screened, we've read screens, and the kids have really been extremely coachable with it. But that's where we spend a lot of our time. I mean, almost all of our time. I mean, we really do. I mean, people think, oh, they're great defensively. That's just because they want to win. But you got to spend a lot of time on, especially if you don't have guys who can just score on their own.
Can you tell first 5 or 6 minutes of the game as a coach, do you look at that and say, oh, good, the ball's going in today, or this is going to be a tough strike? Do you look at things like that?
Let me tell you what I think. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen is the first 5 or 6 minutes you make every shot. And I'm not going to reference what game you're talking about. We know I'm talking about. Because it doesn't continue over 40 minutes. You know, sometimes let's save some of those makes for the second half.
Are there things you look at in the first 5 or 6 minutes?
Adjustments, you know, adjustments mostly. In the beginning of the game, you're looking, what defense are they playing? What are they trying to do against our defense? Because you prepare what you think they're going to do, but you're going to find out in the first 5 to 6 minutes. How are they playing Jaron? You know, how are they playing our screening actions? So therefore, you got to, you know, impart to your players, here's how they're playing this, here's how they're playing that. Here's what they're running against us. So that's the most, but that goes on all game, but you'll find out the most in the first 5 or 6 minutes of it, and especially the college game. All right.
The fact that you got so many guys in the tournament, you got Mamadou in, you got Fredericks in, they gave you good minutes, particularly in the one game where they went on a nice stretch. How important is that going into an NCAA tournament? It's not the same, but it's close.
Yeah, I think that it's important when you're in coaching. You got to make sure that the guys that are not starting stay engaged, that you develop them for their future. You talk to them so they know that you're not, as a head coach, that they're not an afterthought, that you care just as much about them. So like Logan Johnson's got to get a lot of attention this week because he's big for us, even though he didn't get to play. And their development is huge because they can make one play that helps you advance in the NCAA tournament. You know, Mamadou Diarra's basket on the baseline against Wichita State, short jump shot, we probably don't win without it. And that's how we operate it. You know, you have to stay engaged with those guys. You have to, because every little thing matters when you're trying to advance. And and just as much as our strength and conditioning, our nutrition, our rest, our analytics, you're at the highest level, you're trying to get every possible advantage. When we're leaving Wednesday to avoid traffic, what Mike Rayfeld's going to do with yoga and stretching when we get to the hotel Wednesday night. All of it matters, A to Z. I'm a believer that everything matters. And you have to make sure, at least I believe as a leader, that you have to make sure that all those people know how important they are, whether it's our managers or our team doctor, but especially the guys that are not starting. You have to keep them engaged and keep their attitude positive. And they got to know they might not get the minutes, but you still believe in them. So when they get in there, they know that the coaches believe in them.
I heard you give a pitch last night to UC fans to make that trip. Do you expect a big?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Hey, man, I'm from the West Side, so I'm still upset about when they had the gall to have their spring game at Paul Brown. I don't remember what year that was. But yeah, I'm Irish. We don't forget a lot. So it's a chance for us to take over Columbus. Obviously, I'm teasing. I get it. But chance for the Bearcat Nation to take over the state capitol. So also they have a beautiful downtown. They really do. So for our fans going up there, there's no Montgomery Inn, unfortunately. So we'll be eating at Jeff Ruby's.